Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Boundaries. Chapter 131, A Quiet Reunion. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. In the quiet chamber, snow-white teacups sat on a green sandalwood tea table, their fragrant steam curling upward to fill the space between the two figures. Li Qingyu gazed at Qin Ming, her bright eyes clear as crystal. A smile bloomed on her face as she asked, "You didn't bring me a jar of fine wine, did you?" Qin Ming's hair was as black as ink, his eyes gleaming with vitality. Recalling their past encounters, he couldn't help but smile. He shook his head. This time, the gift isn't wine, but it might still leave you feeling slightly tipsy. Oh. What is it then? Li Qingyu asked, her curiosity piqued. The elegant chamber contained exquisite tea sets, a writing desk, and the tools of calligraphy, brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Qin Ming retrieved a sheet of paper, preparing to transcribe the two profoundly mysterious scriptures. Li Qingyu rose gracefully and approached the desk, personally grinding the ink for him. Her consciousness' spiritual light shone like a golden sun piercing through a misty sea, her instincts razor sharp. She sensed, as if guided by an unseen hand, that something was unfolding that would shape her future. The fragrance of tea mingled with the faint scent of ink, drifting slowly through the quiet chamber. Qin Ming sat down and began writing swiftly, his focus absolute, his spirit and energy fully concentrated. He was determined to ensure that not a single stroke of his calligraphy would be flawed. He was meticulously recreating the scripture, capturing every detail exactly as he had seen it, perfectly embodying its divine essence. Through his spiritual resonance, the scripture's meaning remained flawless and complete, free from any distortion or omission. He even included the terrifying predecessor's commentary and the teachings he had imparted to his disciples. As Li Qingyu watched him write with such focused intensity, she noticed the ink on the page began to glow faintly. This was a manifestation of his concentrated spiritual energy, a testament to his complete immersion in the task, imbuing the written words with a living spirit. Soon, his entire being began to radiate a soft light, as if resonating with the scripture on the page. Li Qingyu's fair, jade-like face grew solemn. She retrieved a crystalline, nine-colored seal and placed it in the room to contain the radiant glow. Moving closer, she observed intently. For a moment, her own consciousness' spiritual light began to fluctuate in response. Li Qingyu recognized the scripture's immeasurable value and its profound connection to her own destiny. Is this the gift Qin Ming intends to give me? She wondered. For once, her usually serene demeanor faltered, her lips parting slightly in astonishment, her expression betraying disbelief. Qin Ming remained utterly focused until he finished writing the last character of the first scripture, at which point he finally exhaled in relief. Immediately, he sensed Li Qingyu beside him, engrossed in reading. Her entire being seemed to radiate a soft glow as she immersed herself in the scripture related to the 8 trigrams furnace. He didn't disturb her, sitting quietly beside her. Then, he began flipping through the scripture Li Qingyu had brought. Soon, he became completely absorbed, naturally resonating with its spiritual essence. Qin Ming realized that the old monsters of the beyond the mortal realm were cautious, this wasn't the original text. He saw glimpses of the past, someone had meticulously copied the scripture, making this volume identical to the original. It must have been about 100 or 200 years old. Many had read this book, but all had been stumped by it, leaving behind mostly negative emotions that offered no useful insights. Qin Ming resonated with these emotions solely to memorize the scripture's contents. He continued turning the pages, and before he knew it, he had reached the final page and committed everything to memory. Closing the book, he decided to call it the life-altering scripture. When Qin Ming looked up, he found Li Qingyu watching him. "I've memorized it all," he said, returning the book. "So quickly?" Li Qingyu asked, surprised. "It's done," Qin Ming nodded. By then, Li Qingyu had also finished reading all the ink-scented pages on her desk, committing their contents to memory. Her beautiful eyes sparkled with delight, surprise, and gratitude. "I won't thank you," she said. That would be too formal. She knew that with this scripture, the near-immortal artifact would truly belong to her. At the same time, she didn't ask Qin Ming how he had obtained the incantation for the 6 Ding divine fire. She understood that everyone had their secrets, herself included. Qin Ming explained, "I didn't dare share it with you at the Luofu Immortal Mountain ruins. I feared some omnipotent elder might sense it, or worse, possess you." "I understand," Li Qingyu nodded. She gently pressed her fingers against her luminous brow. "I've inscribed it in the deepest core of my consciousness' spiritual light," she said. "Even if someone manages to possess me, they'll gain nothing. It will vanish with me." Qin Ming immediately stopped her. "Don't say such ominous things. I'm still waiting for you to reach the near-immortal realm so we can truly seek the truth together." Li Qingyu nodded. Her slender, snow-white hand touched the stack of scripture paper on the desk, causing a faint flame to erupt. The papers swiftly turned to ash. "Though I'd love to keep your manuscripts, for safety's sake, we shouldn't leave any traces behind. You can rewrite them for me later." Probably 2 copies, Qinming said with a smile. With that, he picked up his brush and began writing again, this time transcribing the text and diagrams from the metal scraps, scriptures forbidden to those below the third great realm. As he focused intently, the balancing consciousness, spiritual light and divine wisdom overflowed from his brush, infusing the characters with vital essence, spirit, and energy. Li Qingyu helped grind the ink while reciting the scriptures aloud, her voice soft and clear. By the time Qinming finished writing and laid down his brush, she was completely immersed in the text. A strand of her dark hair slipped across her ivory pale cheek, the tip brushing against Qinming's shoulder, carrying a faint, delicate fragrance. She exuded an ethereal, otherworldly aura, as if absorbing the spiritual essence from the paper. As she finished reading, the writing and patterns gradually lost their luster. Li Qingyu tilted her head, her dark hair brushing Qinming's face. When she snapped out of her trance, her flowing immortal resonance seemed to temporarily vanish, replaced by undisguised joy and excitement. The insurmountable great mountain blocking my path has been moved, she declared. This is the fundamental technique I've been desperately seeking. Clearly, this was the content of the true inheritance page. In ancient times, Mount Luofu had been the foundational sacred ground of the beyond the mortal realm. Its foundational scriptures were naturally of unimaginable origin. I'm glad it's useful to you, Qinming said with a smile, then cautioned her, you can't practice this fundamental method until you reach the third realm. Otherwise, something bad will happen. I know, Li Qingyu nodded, visibly relieved, a radiant glow now illuminating her brow. You seemed a bit troubled earlier. Qinming asked. You noticed, Li Qingyu admitted, without hesitation. She explained that while the competition among core disciples had ended, the pressure was even greater for near-immortal seeds like herself, who were being groomed by the beyond the mortal realm for exceptional cultivation. Our lineage originated on Mount Luofu. 1,000 years ago, our attempt to elevate our blessed land to a heavenly cave failed due to unforeseen circumstances, and we lost our fundamental technique. In the past, although an immortal seed had escaped from Mount Luofu and learned the scriptures inscribed on the metallic fragments, they had swiftly departed and never returned. Some speculated that the immortal seed feared being remembered by the elders, fearing for their safety, and thus concealed their identity. Others believed they had been captured by elders from other Dao lineages on the very day of their escape. Li Qingyu's lineage had also studied the fundamental technique, but it was incomplete. If she reached the third great realm without filling the gaps, she would need to consider other scriptures. The beyond the mortal realm's pure land naturally possessed several foundational scriptures, their depths unfathomable. However, obtaining them without paying a price was unrealistic. She could either wait several years for the elders to reach an agreement, or make a monumental contribution to the pure land to immediately earn them. For her, time was invaluable. Even a year's delay would jeopardize her future prospects. The Pure Land's near-immortal seeds all possessed extraordinary origins. They were vying for dominance over the beyond the mortal realm's Pure Land. Whoever prevailed would become its future leader. Some veteran near-immortal seeds, backed by their clan's ancestors, held innate advantages and extended olive branches to her, hinting that if she aligned with them, she could obtain the foundational scriptures sooner. In truth, multiple factions had made excessive demands of her. After Li Qingyu refused, obtaining the supreme grade scripture became even more challenging, requiring further delays. Competition permeated every aspect of existence, even the path beyond the mortal realm was divided into several major systems. We belong to the Pure Land system of the beyond the mortal realm, Qinming quickly learned. There are also the Immortal Land, Yang Land, Calamity Land, and others. He realized that the young man he had killed on Black White Mountain, whose body could transform into mist, likely came from the beyond the mortal realm's Yang Land. Despite being called the Yang Land, it was actually steeped in yin energy. Their cultivation technique fused the physical body and consciousness spiritual light into a unified whole, emphasizing yin characteristics. They revered the ancient legend of the yin spirit's journey, which ultimately transformed into pure yang. Don't compromise yourself, Qinming said, looking at her. He regretted his current weakness, unable to offer any assistance. Perhaps only a founding ancestor could casually ascend to the beyond the mortal realm. He was still far from reaching that level. Li Qingyu nodded. Compromising oneself severs the path to becoming near immortal. Given my previous circumstances, I had little to fear. At worst, I would have become one of the core leaders of the beyond the mortal realm's Pure Land in the future. Now, of course, I must compete for the position with the greatest influence. Her body radiated an ethereal immortal resonance, flowing with dazzling light. She exuded absolute confidence, having finally obtained the supreme grade scripture, freeing her from distractions. I should be going now, Li Qingyu said. She retrieved 2 pieces of strange metal, one emitting a purple mist and the other glowing white as jade, and placed them in his hand. Forge these into weapons, she instructed. They can pierce divine wisdom, heavenly light force, and consciousness spiritual light. You'll need powerful methods to defend against them. Qinming took only 1 piece. One is enough, he said. I'll study it. You can take the other. Li Qingyu didn't argue. She pocketed the remaining piece. Though she now possessed a near-immortal artifact, she dared not carry it openly, lest disaster strike. She stood up, looked at Qin Ming, and smiled. Then she stepped forward and gave him a light hug. I hope that one day, you'll illuminate the night sky with heavenly light. Without a doubt, only the most powerful founding masters throughout history had ever achieved such a feat. This was the most auspicious blessing she could bestow upon Qin Ming, who was embarking on the path of awakening. Qin Ming knew that after she departed, she would likely advance rapidly, striving to reach even higher realms and tread the path to immortality she had envisioned. They might not see each other again for a long time. He returned her embrace and watched her leave. Near immortal, not yet an immortal, Qin Ming called out with a smile. Still immortal. If you ever tire or grow weary, come find me for a drink. Though she was already far away, Li Qingyu heard him. She paused, turned back, nodded with a faint smile, and then, accompanied by an elder, her figure faded into the distance, vanishing completely. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Boundaries. Chapter 132, 15. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. I must continue my arduous cultivation and strive to improve myself, Qin Ming murmured, watching the direction Li Qingyu had disappeared in. The beyond the mortal realm, outer realm, was far more vast than he had imagined, encompassing realms such as the Pure Land, Immortal Land, Yang Land, and Calamity Land. The competition for near-immortal artifacts involved beyond the mortal realm Taoist sects and lineages belonging to the Pure Land. The departure of his old friend left Qin Ming lost in thought. At this moment, Qi Daoming stood motionless, just like him. However, their feelings were completely different. The city lord felt as if the sky were about to collapse. Several betting pools outside the arena were all connected to him, and now they had collapsed. Who placed such a massive bet? Two villains had timed their wagers perfectly, betting on Qin Ming to win. He had no idea anyone was playing with such high stakes. Qi Daoming gritted his teeth. Compensate what? Pay nothing. You'll immediately run away with the funds. One of those villains must be Meng Xinghai. Let's just flip the table and screw him over. A collaborator, his face pale with fear, wailed, City Lord, where can we run? He's a direct descendant of the Meng clan, and his own power is terrifying. If he catches us. Qi Daoming lowered his voice. First, flee into the depths of the great mountain shrouded in night mist. Keep going until you reach the territory of the high-level mutant creatures. Hide there until the storm blows over. He fell silent as black mist swirled, revealing a crane-haired, youthful-faced old man. More crucially, he was carrying another old man under his arm. Young man, are you trying to scam my day gold? Li Qingyan asked, his expression menacing. Qi Daoming couldn't believe his eyes. He didn't recognize the old man asking the question, but he instantly recognized fifth Uncle Kui being carried under his arm. Gifted with exceptional talent and favored by the Li family, Qi Daoming had become their son-in-law and naturally knew some of the direct descendants of their rival noble clans. His scalp went numb. Even fifth Master Kui, the man under the old man's arm, posed a threat to him, let alone the old man himself. Without hesitation, Qi Daoming said, Senior, you jest. You'll receive every day gold you've won. Li Qingyan nodded. Good lad. Business requires integrity. Don't cause trouble and disturb my drinking with my old brothers. Fifth Master Kui's composure was crumbling as rapidly as Qi Daoming's betting stall. Is this how people drink? He wanted to spit in disgust. Ha! The black mist swirled, and Li Qingyan vanished instantly, Fifth Master Kui still tucked under his arm. In an inn in Zhuguang City, Kui and Kui Shunning wore grave expressions. The revelation that Qin Ming had connections to a hidden family was deeply troubling. While they were indeed a millennial clan, they had no desire to confront such a colossal force lurking in the shadows. Hidden families might have smaller populations, but their members were all formidable experts, inspiring widespread caution. The true extent of their power remained shrouded in mystery. When weakened, they seemed almost non-existent. At their peak, they could shatter even millennial clans. Unless absolutely necessary, no one dared to provoke a hidden family. Qin Ming pondered, if a single Pure Land beyond the mortal realm could harbor so many formidable figures, what might the entire beyond the mortal realm contain? His thoughts drifted back to the special node within Black-White Mountain. When the resources there matured, a young woman in azure robes had seized the greatest fortune. From the scraps she discarded, Qin Ming had obtained a mysterious liquid that allowed him to resonate with artifacts containing the crystallized essence of past masters. Clearly, the azure-robed woman was also an outsider. Could she be from the beyond the mortal realm Immortal Land? She doesn't seem to be from the Yang Land. Qin Ming knew her origins must be extraordinary, considering her mount was a golden rock. Moreover, her strength was astonishing. She had dared to snatch food from the jaws of Black-White Mountain, and succeeded. The seemingly ordinary scraps Qin Ming had obtained had triggered profound changes in his spiritual perception. He wondered what benefits the radiant, main ingredient, in the azure-robed woman's possession had granted her. While he suspected his scraps might be a case of heavenly treasures concealing their true nature, he couldn't deny the extraordinary value of the azure-robed woman's main ingredient, perhaps worth a fortune. As these thoughts surfaced, Qinming naturally recalled the white-robed girl who had accompanied the azure-robed woman. Though the white-robed girl harbored no malice, she had once smiled at Qinming's simplicity, suggesting that even from the mountain's peak, he could only glimpse them distantly, highlighting the vast gulf between their worlds, as if separated by endless mountains and seas. Qinming couldn't help but sigh, marveling at the abundance of talent in the beyond the mortal realm. And this was only what he could see on the surface. The true depths of this path remained unfathomable. Most importantly, the immortal land, Yang land, Calamity land, and other realms had yet to fully reveal themselves. Everyone's gone, and you're still daydreaming. Meng Xinghai approached, beaming. This time, he had made a fortune. I hope Qingyu is doing well. The competition there is fierce, Qinming said. It's the same everywhere, Meng Xinghai replied. Qinming nodded. The night mist world is vast and boundless, teeming with powerful figures. Even the few Dao lineages I've glimpsed feel unfathomably deep. And there are paths I've barely touched, like the secret sects and higher lifeforms. Beneath the night mist, Kaisha City came into view. They would soon be back. At the city lord's manor, Meng Xinghai was counting stacks of gold notes, his face radiant with joy. Qinming glanced over. Old Meng had forbidden him from betting, yet now the man himself was practically radiating the aura of day gold. Uncle Meng, when's the next round? Qinming asked eagerly, already planning to bring all his day gold next time. Here, take a look at your winnings from this round, Meng Xinghai said, handing him a palm-sized pouch. When Qinming opened it, a five-colored radiance burst forth, so dazzling he had to shield his eyes. Inside were dozens of thumbnail-sized fruits, some emerald green and glistening, others blood-red like rubies, and still others pure white as jade. Though similar in size and shape, their colors varied dramatically. These were fallen fruits, small because they had fallen prematurely in early spring, before reaching full maturity. If these prematurely fallen fruits are already this extraordinary, Qinming marveled, the fully ripened five-colored fruits. They must be beyond imagination. Meng Xinghai chuckled. A mature fruit can grow as large as a fist. When a whole tree is laden with them, the five-colored divine light illuminates heaven and earth. Qinming could only gasp in awe. These thumbnail-sized fallen fruits paled in comparison. I've never tasted one myself, Meng Xinghai admitted. The fruits are rare, their medicinal potency is legendary, and they never circulate beyond the inner circles. Qinming grinned. If I ever get the chance, Uncle Meng, I'll be sure to offer you a few fully ripened five-colored fruits as a token of my gratitude. Meng Xinghai chuckled. Then you'll have to work hard. If a patriarch-level figure were to visit that place, the five-colored fruit would be served as ordinary table fruit. The fallen fruit contained a dense concentration of heavenly light. Qinming planned to consume it after his seventh awakening to amplify the heavenly light within his body and fuse various martial techniques. However, only a few days had passed since his sixth awakening on Mount Luofu. Even his extraordinary surpassing physique was nearing its limit. Others who had undergone fivefold awakening within a year had already reached their peak. Crossing that threshold would cause severe physical harm. Qinming estimated that after resting for half a month, he might be ready for another awakening. The main reason was his exceptionally deep foundation. The local edition of the Night Report published news of Qinming's victory over Chen Yuan, showering him with praise and declaring his performance remarkable and extraordinary. However, the main edition of the Night Report, distributed across numerous giant cities, made no mention of the duel whatsoever. Zhuguang City and Kaisha City were considered remote and insignificant, so no one cared about a contest between two youths from such places. Of course, a few members of noble clans who knew Qinming's past took slight notice, but only as casual conversation fodder. After all, the fake Kui Chong had long faded from their circles. Undoubtedly, the battles between the firsts from various cities were having a tremendous impact, drawing widespread attention and heated debate. As a result, the Night Report continued to follow the events closely, frequently dedicating extensive coverage to them on its front page. The rising prodigies from the most influential giant cities became their hottest targets for coverage, with new faces constantly emerging. Some exceptionally talented youths were gradually becoming household names. Ling Yu of Luguang City has astonished all four regions, living up to his reputation as a young grandmaster. He has already defeated several formidable opponents who were riding high on their recent victories. Moreover, according to the report, Ling Yu remained remarkably humble, acknowledging that there were even greater talents out there, like blazing sun waiting to break through the dark clouds. Qinming, not wanting to fall behind, began racking up his own victories. The ancestral courts of some great sects and special advanced academies had already begun scouting for top-tier prodigies. Over the next 2 days, Qinming fought 4 consecutive battles, betting on himself each time. Unfortunately, Meng Xinghai's massive win in Zhuguang City had nearly bankrupted Qi Daoming and severely damaged Kaisha City's reputation. Many were now wary of anyone from Kaisha City. Moreover, they had already recognized Qinming's terrifying strength. Betting on Qinming to win offered such low odds that there was virtually no profit to be made. By this point, Qinming had achieved 5 consecutive victories, earning him considerable local fame. However, he still couldn't make the front page of the night report, which was reserved for the prodigies of the giant city. Meanwhile, a young prodigy had emerged in Jin Rui City, and news of this spread like wildfire through the cities shrouded in the night mist. The night report followed the story closely with continuous updates. Finally, an prodigy has appeared, Qinming remarked as he read the night report. For the first time among the various firsts across the region, a prodigy had been identified and confirmed, causing a massive sensation. Although many believed Ling Yu, the young grandmaster from Luguang City, also possessed prodigy traits, he had never publicly acknowledged it. Over the next 2 days, Qinming traveled to 3 more locations, extending his winning streak to 8 consecutive victories. Upon returning, he took a brief rest before meeting up with Xu Sheng, Wu Zheng, Sister Fenfeng, and Zhou Lin for a small gathering in Kaisha City. Look! A massive white peacock is descending from the sky. Xu Sheng, a former traveling merchant with keen eyesight, was the first to spot the exotic bird spiraling down through the clouds from his window seat. Immediately following, a 5-colored spiritual bird pierced through the clouds and descended toward the city. Next, a massive azure bird appeared, circling as it approached Kaisha City. These were extraordinary flying mounts, each bearing several youthful figures on their backs. It soon became clear that these individuals were no ordinary travelers. They hailed from the Divine Illumination Academy, the 5 Elements Palace, and the Heart Inquiry Academy. Are you here to recruit disciples in Kaisha City? Speaking Sparrow flew forward, showing no hesitation as he greeted the group warmly. We're just passing through to resupply. We're headed to a giant city where we heard a youth prodigy has emerged, someone replied. It was evident that the 3 factions had crossed paths on their journey and were now competing to recruit this youth prodigy. We have a young grandmaster here who has won 8 consecutive matches. You shouldn't miss out. Speaking Sparrow declared. Then let him apply himself. Could he become one of your core disciples? Speaking Sparrow asked. In this region, even 48 consecutive victories aren't enough. Unsurprisingly, all 3 factions remained indifferent, showing little interest in achievements from such remote areas. Soon after, they hurried on their way. Several days later, Qinming's winning streak had reached 15 matches. Finally, the night report's main edition briefly mentioned that several promising young fighters had emerged in remote cities like Kaisha City and Jingxi, with some already boasting over a dozen consecutive victories. However, the report still refrained from naming anyone specifically. Meng Xinghai advised Qinming, prepare yourself. I suspect He won't remain idle for long. They don't want you entering the ancestral court of the great sects, so they'll likely send someone to challenge you. He smiled faintly. Now that they know you're extraordinary, I'll provoke He further. Tell them you aspire to join the ancestral court of the 6 imperial lineage. That should worry them, they'll fear you might steal Chongxuan's core disciple spot. Meng Xinghai believed it was time to set his plan in motion, hoping to force He to reveal the Yimu scripture. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Boundaries. Chapter 133, A Harsh Reality. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. In the living room, Meng Xinghai gently struck a set of hanging bronze chimes, producing a crisp, melodious sound. He said, the Kui clan values their reputation highly. That makes things much easier. Is there something going on behind the scenes? Qinming asked. Meng Xinghai explained, you've won over a dozen consecutive matches. Normally, the Night Gazette would feature your streak on the front page. But the Kui clan intervened and had it suppressed. The Kui clan wanted him to keep a low profile, fearing that his resurgence would remind people of past scandals. Meng Xinghai continued, the Kui clan cares deeply about appearances. They abandoned you before. If you suddenly start achieving great success, wouldn't that make them look bad? Qinming felt helpless. Should he really lie low for the sake of the Kui clan's reputation, never rising above mediocrity? What right did they have to demand that? Meng Xinghai chuckled. I spoke to an acquaintance at the Night Gazette. When you won your 15th match, we had them mention it briefly, just to gauge Kui and the others' reactions. Judging by the feedback, it worked perfectly. Qinming immediately understood. Old Meng was a master of manipulation. No wonder he enjoyed playing bronze chimes and other ancient instruments. He also marveled at the Night Gazette's blatant commercialism. Without Meng Xinghai's intervention, even a winning streak of any length would go unreported. Moreover, this time the Night Gazette only mentioned Kaisha, Jin Rui, and other cities, replacing his name with some youth. However, he thought this was fine. Being too high profile wasn't a good thing, and he should thank the Kui clan for keeping things under wraps. Meng Xinghai said, recently, I've been researching and found that some great sects and advanced academies established rules long ago. The first, from different cities would compete, and if they won 20 consecutive matches, they could apply to join those institutions. After passing certain trials, they could become core disciples. This was ancient history, long forgotten by most. The trials were notoriously difficult, making the qualification largely meaningless. Meng Xinghai believed these challenges would be trivial for Qin Ming. All he needed was 20 consecutive wins. With his guidance, Kuihe and the others would likely rush to arrange formidable opponents to stop Qin Ming's winning streak. At that point, Qin Ming could agree to spar, but only if they wagered rare scriptures as prizes. If we could obtain the scripture of everlasting green life, Yi Mu scripture, that would be even better. It can extend one's lifespan by half a lifetime, a priceless secret manual. Though the chances were slim, Meng Xinghai still wanted to try. The Kui clan's founding ancestor had lived so long precisely because he had cultivated the scripture of everlasting green life, Yi Mu scripture. Qin Ming swiftly won his next 4 matches, bringing his consecutive victories to 19. Now he could relax and wait for old Meng's instructions. The life-altering scripture is truly extraordinary, with its own unique insights, Qin Ming mused, calming his mind as he studied the ancient scripture from the depths of the night mist world. He had diligently studied the secret manual the day Li Qingyu brought it to him, but many concepts still required further contemplation. The life-altering scripture was a strange book filled with dangerous experiments. To prolong life and strengthen one's foundation, it proposed various seemingly viable hypotheses that often led to death. Qin Ming suspected that even the scripture's creator hadn't tested all these absurd methods. Yet he found himself engrossed in the text, pondering its depths. The book mentioned seeking out a demonic cauldron, entering which would inevitably cost 50 years of lifespan. However, if one could endure the ordeal, their body would undergo a transformation, transforming and potentially extending their life by 60 years. Qin Ming didn't know how to react to this passage. How had these 60 years been calculated? Could it even be verified? Even if the method succeeded, what if it only extended one's life by 30 years? Qin Ming dared not blindly trust the scripture's specific techniques, fearing they might lead to his demise. The book mentioned other absurd methods, such as enduring lightning strikes infused with the purple haze. According to the text, surviving such an ordeal would inevitably enhance one's physical constitution. After reading this passage, Qin Ming was utterly speechless. He then studied the next section, which described how to obtain dragon blood by approaching a dragon's breath, a slender tornado that descends from the clouds to the lake or sea. This phenomenon, the text explained, didn't contain the blood of a true dragon, but rather a priceless, rare substance found in the depths of the lake or sea. You could easily be swept into the sky and die a gruesome death, Qin Ming muttered. And the text even admits that dragon blood doesn't appear with every dragon's breath. Though Qin Ming suspected the author hadn't personally verified all these methods, he found them intriguing, as they offered a glimpse into alternative approaches. Having undergone 6 awakenings, he had only 3 remaining opportunities to enhance his physical constitution. The awakening stage was the period of fastest progress on this path. Once one reached the outer saint realm, breaking through became exceedingly difficult. Many who embarked on this path found themselves stagnating at a critical point, taking years or even decades to advance a single small step, eventually leading to utter despair. As Qin Ming meticulously studied the life-altering scripture, examining its various perilous trials, he realized these methods might hold the key to breaking through his current bottleneck. Perhaps, by employing these extreme methods, the later realms of outer saint and spirit domain wouldn't be so arduous to traverse. However, the premise remained as the author of the strange book had stated, as long as you don't die. This bizarre condition deterred many. After all, the author wouldn't leap from his coffin to extend their lives if they failed. Of course, the book also contained valuable chapters. Though obscure and difficult to practice, Qin Ming had systematically mastered most of them, having even grasped the overarching principles outlined in the first 3 pages. Qin Ming believed that the cultivation methods of the ancients differed significantly from those of modern practitioners. Consequently, most contemporary cultivators found the book's diagrams of energy circulation pathways incompatible with their own practices. However, his unified heavenly light force flowed seamlessly through these ancient pathways. Combined with his divine wisdom and consciousness spiritual light, the 3 forces intertwined like fish and water. The ancients placed great emphasis on the interplay of yin and yang, recognizing their reversibility, Qin Ming mused. This scripture stems from that principle. The seemingly absurd, death-defying techniques all embody this truth, seeking life within death, prolonging withered lifespans. With this insight, Qin Ming inhaled spiritual essence, merging his consciousness and divine wisdom into the heavenly light force. He planted this unified energy like a seed into the soil of his flesh, the yin and yang aspects harmonizing perfectly with the natural order of the cosmos. Sigh, only 3 awakening opportunities remain for enhancing my physical body, Qinming lamented, a hint of melancholy in his voice. He hoped that upon reaching the outer Saint Realm, his path wouldn't be fraught with obstacles. He needed to find alternative methods to maintain his rapid progress. Afterward, Qinming repeatedly tested the ability he had gained from his 6th awakening, finding himself quite satisfied. 3 days later, Meng Xinghai called him over, saying, "Let's take a trip to the giant city." "This isn't like you, Uncle Meng," Qinming said with a smile. Meng Xinghai had always avoided taking him to the giant city for duels. Firstly, the people there considered a young genius from a remote region unworthy of their attention. Secondly, old Meng deliberately avoided such publicity, not wanting Qinming to become too high profile. Moreover, with the Kui clan's cooperation in pressuring the Night Gazette to suppress news about him, Qinming had remained largely out of the public eye. Meng Xinghai chuckled. "We need to provoke Kui a bit, urge him to make arrangements quickly, but on our terms." The place he intended to take Qinming was Jin Rui City, where a youthful prodigy named Cao Wuji had emerged. "Uncle Meng, you're not planning to make me duel this prodigy, are you?" Qinming asked. "There's no need for that," Meng Xinghai replied, shaking his head. He continued, "The ancestral courts of the great sects and the advanced academies undoubtedly harbor extraordinary young prodigy. Cao Wuji's early exposure will make him a prime target for scrutiny. At this stage, Cao Wuji would undoubtedly attract the attention of numerous Dao lineages, each extending an olive branch. Once he made his choice, everything would change." Jin Rui City exuded a sense of historical weight, being one of the earliest giant cities ever built. Legend had it that during the Great Pioneering Era, auspicious omens had appeared here, dyeing the mountains and rivers with brocade hues. Cao Wuji possessed 1,000 caddies of strength upon his first awakening. "That's truly extraordinary," Meng Xinghai remarked, visibly surprised by the news. "No wonder so many sects are vying to recruit him. Having nearly 1,000 caddies of strength in one's arms already qualified one as an extraordinary individual, the only way to achieve 9 awakenings. Others typically stopped at 7 or 8. Qinming and Meng Xinghai soon learned that beyond the 5 Elements Palace, Divine Illumination Academy, and Heart Inquiry Academy, other major Dao lineages had also arrived to claim Cao Wuji, including the Pure Yang Palace and Origin Academy, renowned places that shook the entire Night Mist world. However, the 6 Imperial, Jade Pure, and Heaven-shattering Dao lineages remained reserved, with no representatives yet appearing. Meng Xinghai said, "Tomorrow, there will be a gathering of young talents at the Purple Bamboo Forest along the Jin Rui River. You should go take a look." The Jin Rui River flowed through the city, its banks lined with scenic spots. Legend has it that during the Great Pioneering Era, a divine artifact was unearthed in this Purple Bamboo Forest and became the sacred treasure of a certain esoteric sect. The next day, Qinming arrived at the forest and immediately heard someone recounting its history, revealing its remarkable origins. He wasn't the only outsider present. Many talented youths from various cities had flocked here after hearing that the Pure Yang Palace, Origin Academy, and 5 Elements Palace were selecting disciples. A spring breeze rustled through the purple bamboo grove, causing it to shimmer with a gentle violet light. A fire spring coursed through the forest, creating a picturesque scene. Qinming observed the extraordinary talents from different giant cities, each radiating an exceptional aura. Soon, he spotted Cao Wuji. His eyes shone brightly, and his sword-like eyebrows swept toward his temples, giving him a strikingly handsome and charismatic presence. Cao Wuji stood among the purple bamboo, engaging in lively conversation with representatives from the Pure Yang Palace and Divine Illumination Academy. Undoubtedly, he was the man of the hour. Numerous great sects were eager to recruit him, and he was constantly surrounded by admirers. However, what Cao Wuji truly desired was to join a Dao lineages like Heaven Shattering or 6 Imperial, but no one from those sects had yet appeared. Several youths approached Qinming to greet him. After all, an extraordinary individual like him, if he didn't die young, was bound to become a renowned figure in the future. "Brother, what's your name and where are you from?" one of them asked with a smile, eager to expand his network. Most of those who dared to come here were geniuses from the giant cities, hoping to gain early admission to prestigious institutions like the Pure Yang Palace and Origin Academy. "Kai Sha, Qinming replied. "I've heard of it." The youth across from him said, clasping his hands in a perfunctory gesture. He had already dismissed Kai Sha City as being outside the giant cities, and without waiting for Qinming to finish his name, he politely excused himself. "Senior brother, where are you from and what's your name?" A purple-robed girl approached with a sweet smile, clearly also seeking to expand her network, as there were no ordinary talents present. "Kai Sha City, Qinming." This time, the purple-robed girl didn't interrupt him. Instead, she engaged him in a lively conversation. Qinming was puzzled. Wasn't she here to connect with potential geniuses destined to soar like the Great Rock? A white-robed girl approached, strikingly beautiful and acquainted with the purple-robed girl. She asked with a hint of curiosity, "This senior brother is He's from Qisha City, the foremost figure there. The purple-robed girl enthusiastically introduced. Ah, you're mistaken, the white-robed girl whispered. Qisha City is the giant city. Kaisha City is in a very remote region. Ah, I'm sorry. After apologizing, the two girls made excuses and left. Qin Ming sighed. At such a pure and beautiful stage of life, why must reality be so harsh? The youthful prodigy Cao Wuji was surrounded by the largest crowd, so dense it was impossible to squeeze through. He stood at the center, like the moon surrounded by stars. Suddenly, someone shouted, someone from the Jade Pure lineage has arrived. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The appearance of someone from this ancient Taoist sect likely meant they were also here for Cao Wuji. In the past, the Jade Pure lineage had remained secluded, rarely accepting disciples on a large scale. However, their selection of the most exceptional talents had never ceased. Therefore, anyone from the Jade Pure lineage present here must hold an extraordinary status. The group from the Jade Pure lineage was led by a young woman, her radiance dazzling as she glided forward with ethereal grace, like a figure from a painting. Senior sister, I've long admired the Jade Pure lineage. Many around her yearned to learn the legendary Jade Pure force, their eyes burning with fervent desire. Alright, sign up. I'll register you. Just pass the assessment when the time comes, the leading woman said with a smile. Senior sister, you wouldn't happen to be that legendary youthful prodigy from 2 years ago, would you? The one who defeated masters from every city, crushed the outsider disciples, and suppressed the esoteric sect's potential seeds. I saw your portrait. Wait, it really is you. Someone exclaimed in surprise. The leading woman smiled faintly, offering no reply as she walked toward Cao Wuji. As she passed near Qin Ming, she glanced at him, then couldn't help but look again, her expression shifting oddly. This immediately drew the attention of the crowd. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. Night Without Boundaries. Chapter 134, Far Exceeding Expectations. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The fact that the leading woman of the Jade Pure lineage was paying such close attention to a young man, repeatedly glancing at him, deeply surprised many onlookers, who couldn't help but follow her gaze. I think his name is Qin Ming, someone whispered. He's from Kaisha City. Many were astonished. They were familiar with all the major cities in the realm, and Kaisha City was certainly not among them, seeming to be a rather remote place. Qin Ming smiled and nodded, regardless of whether she would reciprocate, he had fulfilled his courtesy. The woman, radiant and dazzling, smiled brilliantly and nodded back in acknowledgement. The surrounding crowd murmured in astonishment. Were these two old acquaintances? Or was this young man from a remote region truly extraordinary, having already captured the attention of the Jade Pure lineage's leader? Her name was Lu Yuji, an extraordinary individual. 2 years ago, she had defeated numerous formidable experts, displaying terrifying strength, though her achievements had been deliberately downplayed. Is this senior sister famous? Indeed. She's a stunning extraordinary prodigy who has shaken the realm. Rumor has it that someone injured her friend and provoked her. She then challenged her way through, consecutively crushing several seed-level experts from beyond the mortal realm and the secret sect. Only a few people present knew the truth, as the Lu clan, a millennial noble family, had deliberately concealed Lu Yuji's achievements to avoid drawing excessive attention to her. Qin Ming was surprised to see her here. He wasn't well acquainted with Lu Yuji, having only met her a few times. He had heard of her possessing divine wisdom, and assumed she would join the secret sect, never imagining she would become a disciple of the Jade Pure lineage. However, Qin Ming quickly understood. Qingtian, 6 Imperial, Jade Pure, and other lineages each possessed the legendary heavenly light force. On the path of awakening, they were among the few Dao lineages that the beyond the mortal realm and the secret sect feared. Although disciples of these ancestral courts would eventually face slow cultivation progress and a bleak future, requiring them to endure long periods of stagnation, they were undeniably formidable in their early stages. Qin Ming surmised that Lu Yuji intended to use the Jade Pure force as her protective Dao technique while simultaneously pursuing the secret sect's path to godhood. With her abundant divine wisdom, gaining entry into the secret sect would be no challenge. The Jade Pure lineage maintained exceptionally strict criteria for selecting disciples. Without extraordinary aptitude, it was nearly impossible to obtain genuine inheritance. Given her qualifications, she naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Lu Yuji approached Cao Wuji, her brocade robes and exquisite features radiating confidence and charm. Her extraordinary presence captivated all eyes. Cao Wuji had previously been the center of attention, surrounded by people like the moon amidst the stars. But when he saw the radiant woman approaching, he immediately stepped forward to greet her, his demeanor humble and respectful. He knew exactly who she was, and his status as an extraordinary prodigy no longer set him apart. Interested in joining the Jade Pure lineage? Lu Yuji asked with a gentle smile. Born into a millennial clan and a high-ranking disciple of Jade Pure, she also walked the path of the secret sect. Though her smile was warm, her presence carried considerable weight. Facing her, Cao Wuji had no advantage whatsoever. He immediately addressed her as senior sister, and expressed his willingness to join Jade Pure sect. A decisive man, he agreed without hesitation, making his choice clear. The representatives from the Pure Yang Palace, Heart Inquiry Academy, and Five Elements Palace could only watch helplessly. Though they desperately wanted to recruit this extraordinary prodigy, how could they compete with the Jade Pure lineage? Moreover, none of them were a match for the woman herself. Even if they ganged up on her, they would likely be crushed. After a brief silence, many stepped forward to congratulate Cao Wuji. Lu Yuji's expression softened as she explained, I must warn you, even after joining Jade Pure lineage, you will still need to pass certain trials. Cao Wuji nodded in understanding. Learning the legendary heavenly light force couldn't be easy, even extraordinary individuals had to undergo scrutiny. The atmosphere in the purple bamboo forest grew lively. Many people gathered around the two extraordinary individuals. Some congratulated Cao Wuji, while others inquired about joining the Jade Pure lineage, eager to learn about the eligibility requirements. Cao Wuji, strikingly handsome and remarkably articulate, quickly won the favor of the young disciples from the Jade Pure lineage present. Lu Yuji, radiant and captivating, smiled and nodded, her impression of him quite favorable. Nearby, some pondered the significance of the Jade Pure lineage actively recruiting disciples outside their sect, an extremely rare occurrence. A few realized that the great pioneering era might truly be approaching. Even the ancient Jade Pure Dao lineage had begun expanding, actively seeking top-tier disciples. As Lu Yuji approached Qin Ming, she immediately drew attention again. It's quite unexpected to see you here, she said, her robes fluttering in the spring breeze. Her slender figure and gently swaying hair radiated brilliance. Not only was she a noble lady from a millennial clan, but also a disciple of the Jade Pure lineage, practicing dual-path cultivation. Her entire being shone with even greater radiance and splendor than before. Miss Lu, it's been a while. You look even more radiant than before, Qin Ming greeted. The purple bamboo swayed gently in the breeze, its faint jade-like glow shimmering in the sunlight. The scenery here was truly breathtaking. Lu Yuji, her eyebrows as dark as distant mountains, smiled and asked, did you come here hoping to join one of the cultivation sects? Qin Ming nodded. Yes, I've been working tirelessly to secure my future. I traveled all the way from a remote region to Jinrui City specifically for this. If you wish to join the Jade Pure lineage, Lu Yuji explained, you'll need to pass various trials. Are you prepared to apply? Intrigued by the Jade Pure lineage, Qin Ming asked, what are the requirements for joining? How long would it take to master the legendary Jade Pure force? Lu Yuji smiled. The Jade Pure trials are rigorous. The first step is becoming a registered disciple, which requires a certain level of innate talent. After a brief exchange, Lu Yuji shared some information with Qin Ming before turning to join her fellow disciples. Hey, brother, do you know Miss Lu? Someone approached him. This person had initially tried to cultivate Qin Ming as a connection, but lost interest upon learning he was from a remote region. Now, he was back. Senior brother, are you very close to Miss Lu? A girl in purple robes appeared, greeting him with a radiant smile. Qin Ming found himself surrounded, but he was straightforward. He told them he had only met Lu Yuji a few times and that even if he wanted to join the Jade Pure lineage, he would have to start with the registered disciple assessment. Half an hour later, the crowd finally dispersed, convinced that he truly came from the remote Kaisha city and wasn't particularly close to Lu Yuji, a core disciple of the Jade Pure lineage. After exchanging brief pleasantries with the geniuses from the giant cities, Lu Yuji announced, alright, anyone who wishes to apply to Jade Pure can take the test now. She produced a stack of scripture paper and distributed it, explaining, this paper describes a heavenly light force, temporarily created by our sect elders. Those who can comprehend it and manifest 4 colors of heavenly light will pass. Qin Ming accepted a sheet of scripture paper. Since it was a heavenly light force, he naturally wanted to see what it was like. Before long, he had mastered the technique and sensed that more than 4 colors of heavenly light were intertwined, there seemed to be even greater forces at play. Sure enough, a more dazzling rainbow glow emerged from his palm. The eyes of those around him immediately changed. After counting carefully, they realized he had manifested 8 colors and was still attempting to conjure more luminous mist. Xiao Qin, we should go now, Meng Xinghai called out from a distance, urging Qin Ming to leave. All right. Qin Ming nodded, extinguishing the light in his palm and striding away. Exclamations of surprise echoed through the purple bamboo forest. I passed. I manifested 4 colors. Soon, a few individuals achieved 5 colors, causing a minor uproar. When attention turned to Cao Wuji, it was discovered that he had manifested 7 colors, immediately causing a sensation. A rainbow seemed to flow within his palm, radiant mist rising like sacred steam, its dazzling glow utterly captivating. This is absurd. He's completed it beyond the requirements. Is this what it means to be extraordinary prodigy? The gap between us is truly insurmountable. The purple bamboo forest erupted with continuous gasps of awe. Many could only sigh, realizing the talent disparities were undeniable and unbridgeable. The difference was simply too vast. Cao Wuji remained unfazed. What's so special about this? Yet, he mused, the process of analyzing the heavenly light force was rather intriguing. This has nothing to do with the extraordinary prodigy's physical endowments, Lu Yuji said with a smile. This trial tests only comprehension. In truth, one more color can be manifested. In her jade-white palm, 8 colors swirled like a miniature celestial river, dazzlingly brilliant. Cao Wuji was genuinely surprised. Another color. Lu Yuji, already highly satisfied with his performance, smiled reassuringly. Manifesting 7 colors at this stage is already remarkable. The 8th color requires a unique understanding of heavenly light fusion, and you haven't studied that deeply yet. I just saw someone. They seem to emit 8 colors too, someone whispered. What are you talking about? A nearby person challenged. The others in the area turned to look. What's going on? Lu Yuji asked. The girl in purple, though nervous, spoke plainly, I just saw someone emit 8 colors. Impossible. How could anyone at our stage possibly comprehend heavenly light to that extent? Who was it? Where did they go? The crowd erupted in disbelief. Cao Wuji frowned, glancing in their direction. A young prodigy from Giant City spoke up, I think I saw it too. 8 colors appeared in his palm. It was Qin Ming, the one from the remote lands. He was called away. A wave of shock swept through the crowd. Could someone truly surpass the extraordinary prodigy Cao Wuji? Even if their innate talent was comparable, how could their comprehension be so extraordinary? Cao Wuji was stunned. Could someone his age actually be performing better than him? This has nothing to do with the extraordinary prodigy's innate talent, someone tried to comfort him, hoping to curry favor, only to realize they'd stepped on his toes. Cao Wuji's face remained impassive, but a tempest raged within him. To think someone could surpass him in comprehension. Lu Yuji's expression also turned astonished as she gazed in the direction of the disappearing figure beyond the purple bamboo forest. Could he truly possess such comprehension? It far exceeded her expectations. The next day, Kui received some news that made him frown. He went to Jin Rui City and met with people from the Jade Pure and Pure Yongdao traditions. Is he planning to join one of the great sect ancestral courts? It seems so. Oh, and there was a minor incident, his comprehension is astonishing. Later that day, Kui received another report. Qinming was showing great interest in the 6 imperial force and seemed intent on joining that Dao lineage. Upon hearing this, Kui Shuning's face darkened. He's a prodigy with such extraordinary comprehension. Isn't he trying to steal Chongxuan's core disciple spot? He's doing this on purpose. The most critical detail was that Qinming had already won 19 consecutive matches. Just one more victory would grant him direct entry to the 6 Imperial, where he would undergo an assessment arranged by the elders. Passing it would secure his position as a core disciple. Kui and Kui Shuning felt like the sky was falling. Had they been outmaneuvered? They were stunned to learn of this rule allowing direct access to the 6 Imperials, gates and elders. Stop him immediately. We can't let him win the 20th match. Where's that young prodigy we found earlier? Get him into the arena. He's a man of considerable status. It won't be easy to persuade him to participate. Meng Xinghai remained unhurried, declining invitations to spar and playing hard to get. He insisted there was only one match left and no need to rush. Over the past 2 days, Lu Yuji noticed familiar faces, old friends, all scions of noble clans, repeatedly inquiring about Qinming's aptitude. Hey, didn't you hear? The Kui family's cast-off has remarkable talent and is showing signs of rising to prominence. I heard there's going to be a spectacular match soon. Want to come watch? Yeah, that's right, a mysterious young prodigy is planning to challenge Qinming. 4 days later, all terms were agreed upon and approved by all parties. A duel, though lacking widespread publicity, had been arranged, sparking considerable interest among those in the know. Meng Xinghai was immensely satisfied. While he had long anticipated failing to secure the complete scripture of everlasting green life Yi Mu scripture, he had ultimately negotiated for a fragment of the scripture, along with the Yi Mu scripture, more than enough to consider the outcome a success. The stakes for this duel far exceeded expectations, including not only the Yi Mu scripture but also 6 pages of the scripture of everlasting green life Yi Mu scripture. Kui was in a foul mood, realizing afterward that Meng Xinghai had led him by the nose, completely dictating the pace and terms of the negotiations. Kui Shuning was equally displeased. She had learned that despite their efforts to keep the duel low profile, a small group of acquaintances from the noble clans would be attending. Though the event wouldn't be publicly reported, the presence of these familiar faces still made her feel deeply humiliated. Were they here to witness their humiliation? Her expression turned icy. What infuriated her most was that Meng Xinghai and certain members of the Li clan were protecting Qinming. 5th Master Kui was still drinking with Li Qingyan. How many days had passed already? 2 days later, familiar faces began appearing in Kaisha City. The arrival of members from the Li family immediately infuriated Kui and Kui Shuning. The Wang clan's emotionless appearance left them feeling somewhat helpless. What are you doing here, you little brat? Kui He finally found someone he could vent his anger on and slapped Zheng Maorong across the face. Zheng Maorong was stunned, desperately wanting to retaliate. He paused, realizing he stood no chance in a fight. He had only come to observe the battle after hearing the news, how had he suddenly been slapped? And you lot. A bunch of greenhorns neglecting your duties to join this commotion. Kui He roared, his anger blazing. Slap. Slap. The group of youths seethed with fury. Lu Yuji is here too. Why don't you dare touch her? One of them retorted defiantly. Late that night, outside Kai Sha City, a dense fog blanketed the land, as if the world had been drenched in ink. Pitch blackness swallowed everything, rendering all visibility impossible. Qin Ming stood motionless. Through the thick night mist, a young figure slowly approached him. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Boundaries. Chapter 135, The Young Grandmaster. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. A youth emerged from the night mist, tall and slender with slightly broad shoulders. Though not physically imposing, he exuded a palpable sense of strength. He approached at a measured pace, his steps carrying an inexplicable rhythm. Each footfall resonated like the beat of a mystical spirit drum, reverberating deep within the hearts of those nearby. Is he making his move already? Some of the surrounding youths felt a tightness in their chests, a growing discomfort as their hearts seemed to synchronize with the rhythm of his footsteps. Many realized this newcomer was no ordinary opponent. In the fire spring-less wilderness, the night was as dark as ink, rendering everything invisible to ordinary eyes. As the youth drew closer, his eyes burned like twin flames in the darkness, each step precise and unwavering. Every movement, from the distance covered to the force of his footfalls, was executed with flawless precision. The ground trembled faintly as he advanced, carrying with him an extraordinary momentum. A few of the observing youths felt as if their hearts were being gripped, their discomfort intensifying with each step. With a sharp clang, the jade iron sword on Qin Ming's back slid slightly from its sheath, instantly severing the rhythmic pressure. The youth opposite Qin Ming faltered, his footsteps pausing as the peculiar resonance vanished, wisps of earth chi dissipating into the night mist. Yu Zuohan. The newcomer announced himself. The distant mountains, swallowed by darkness, were completely obscured, not even their faintest shadows visible, such was the true nature of the night mist world. Qin Ming, with his exceptional vision honed through 6 awakenings, could clearly discern objects beneath the night mist. He fixed his gaze ahead and returned the introduction, Qin Ming. Yu Zuohan's silver hair cascaded to his shoulders, each strand crystalline and radiating a faint glow in the darkness. His sharply defined features gave his face a striking three-dimensional quality. The two sized each other up, neither rushing to attack. Where did the Kui clan find this ally? Meng Xinghai frowned slightly, sensing the silver-haired youth's extraordinary presence. He had established strict rules beforehand, explicitly forbidding outer saints from participating, fearing Kui He might summon reinforcements far exceeding the agreed-upon limits. This one is likely not a pure awakener, Qi Daoming, the Li family's son-in-law, remarked with an air of immortal detachment. He had come purely to observe the spectacle. Moreover, direct descendants from all 3 generations of the Li family, old, middle-aged, and young, had appeared, clearly trying to provoke the Kui clan. Whether the Kui clan won or lost, the Li family would be delighted, their faces beaming with amusement. Kui He and Kui Shuning's expressions immediately turned icy upon seeing the Li family's direct descendants. There was no warmth or goodwill between the 2 clans. Suddenly, they sensed something and turned to see Wang Kaiwei's 5th uncle and her biological elder brother standing on the opposite side, observing the battle. In the past, the Kui clan had been in the wrong for failing to inform the Wang clan about the impostor Kui Chonghei's true identity beforehand. Now, facing the Wang clan's direct descendants, they felt a twinge of guilt. Especially since this impostor, who had once traveled with Wang Kaiwei, had shown faint signs of undergoing a transformation into a dragon after embarking on the path of awakening. Most critically, the Kui clan had already abandoned him, sending him to attract the Li family's main forces alongside a group of elderly men nearing the end of their lives, sacrificing themselves to buy time. Even those within the Kui clan who wished to reclaim him harbored reservations, believing the rift between them was irreparable and that nurturing such a talent would be like raising a tiger to devour its master. In the distance, Zheng Maorong muttered viciously, "Look at Kui He, 4th Master Kui, who practices the Yi Mu essence cultivation technique. His sickly green hair and deathly pale face make him look like he's eaten a dead rat. How dare he slap me? I'll make him pay for this." Though Zheng Maorong had never personally intervened, he had used subtle gestures, smirks, and veiled remarks to incite others against Qin Ming. The other young nobles, both male and female, all from prominent clans, wore complex expressions as they watched Qin Ming through the night mist, their thoughts drifting back to past events. Some had once been close to him, former friends of Qin Ming. This time, hearing that many acquaintances would be attending the duel, these noble scions had flocked to the scene en masse. Over 2 years had passed. Some had long since dismissed the idea of associating with the fake Kui Chong, but others had once considered visiting him in his remote exile. Today's duel provided the perfect opportunity to finally see him. In the distance, Li Qingyan emerged through the swirling black mist, a wine jar cradled in one arm as he raised a wine cup with the other, gesturing for 5th Master Kui to join him in a drink. 5th Master Kui ignored him, finding the pungent aroma overwhelming. He felt completely trapped. He now realized that unless Qin Ming entered the ancestral court of the One Sector joined an advanced academy, he would never escape this predicament. Beneath the night mist, the two youths clashed. The battle erupted, silencing the entire wilderness. Not a sound stirred. In the darkness, astonishing heavenly light force surged from their bodies, like twin bolts of lightning tearing through the night, illuminating the desolate landscape as they collided fiercely. Yu Zuohan retreated swiftly, his chest heaving as he gasped for breath. The brief exchange of fists and palms had revealed a pressure as heavy as a mountain. The Kui clan remained composed, showing no signs of concern. The Lu family, who had come solely for entertainment, now wore expressions of surprise. It seemed Qin Ming was indeed an extraordinary prodigy. Lu Yuji stared intently, genuinely astonished. She had never imagined that the Qin Ming she had encountered in Jin Rui City possessed such astonishing comprehension and might even be an extraordinary prodigy. With such foundational strength, he undoubtedly qualified to join the Jade Pure lineage. How could he have grown this strong in such a short time? Zheng Maorong's face darkened, his expression grim. Amidst the night mist, Qin Ming stood calmly, his tall frame like an imposing mountain, radiating oppressive power as he advanced on his opponent. He knew this opponent was formidable, having withstood his punch without injury and still exuding confidence. Qin Ming assessed the silver-haired youth's extraordinary physique. With a strength exceeding 8,000 catties, he was practically an extraordinary individual. If he cultivated his body using the 6 Imperial Heart Scripture and the Tathagata Scripture, he would undoubtedly ascend to that realm swiftly. Yu Zuohan tilted his head back in the night mist, his entire being becoming translucent. Mysterious patterns seemed to spread and expand within his flesh and blood, causing the silver light radiating from his body to intensify dramatically. Regardless of Yu Zuohan's hidden reserves, Qin Ming remained fearless. He strode forward, traversing the uneven wasteland in a single step, closing the distance in an instant and pressing his palm forward. Silver-white flames erupted around Yu Zuohan, transforming his aura completely. This time, he dared to meet Qin Ming's attack head-on, unleashing a terrifying fist strike that crackled with energy. As expected, Yu Zuohan's strength had surged dramatically. He exchanged blows with Qin Ming at lightning speed, their fists colliding repeatedly. Earth chi seemed to rise from beneath his feet, while his body bathed in fiery light. Qin Ming was deeply surprised. At this stage, awakeners could barely absorb earth essence. Had Yu Zuohan also cultivated the Wuji scripture? Combined with his mastery of Fire Dao fist techniques, the combination proved remarkably powerful. In the next moment, the ground beneath Qin Ming's feet trembled as earth essence surged upward. His Wuji fist erupted, striking with lightning speed. The two clashed like colliding meteorites, erupting in a dazzling blaze of fire. The heavenly light force surged violently, multiple earth-shattering collisions shattering massive boulders and exploding ancient trees across the desolate landscape. With a deafening boom, Yu Zuohan was sent flying backward, crashing through a century-old tree. He staggered to his feet, gasping for breath. Across the night sky, a brilliant arc of light streaked through the darkness. Qin Ming gave him no respite, closing in with blinding speed. Unleashing the Li fire force, his right palm glowed like a miniature sun, pressing forward with overwhelming force. It resembled a golden crow scorching the heavens, its blinding radiance obliterating the night mist. Another earth-shattering boom shook the area, sending sand and stone flying as ancient trees shattered. Figures blurred in the chaos as Qin Ming relentlessly pursued Yu Zuohan. The Kui clan members exchanged uneasy glances, though they weren't yet panicked. One of them remarked, "This Qin Ming. He's unbelievably strong for an awakener. To calmly suppress such a formidable opponent. He's no ordinary fighter." The Wang clan members turned to Kui He, Wang Kaiwei's elder brother asking, exactly how many awakenings has Qin Ming undergone? Many sensed something was amiss. Yu Zuohan, practically an extraordinary individual himself, was being decisively overwhelmed by Qin Ming. As far as they knew, Qin Ming had embarked on the path of awakening less than half a year ago. During this period, a red line loomed. Awakeners were forbidden from undergoing awakenings more than 5 times. Meng Xinghai smiled. Qin Ming is a fortunate young man. Back when he was a hunter trying to avoid starvation, he unearthed a void spiritual bamboo shoot on Black and White Mountain. After consuming it, he underwent a purification process, freeing him from the 5 awakening limit. Many were stunned. Could such luck truly exist? A single void spiritual bamboo shoot was priceless, capable of neutralizing toxins, curses, and other maladies, a rare and precious medicinal treasure. Of course, if allowed to mature into void spiritual bamboo, its value would skyrocket. No consumption would be necessary, simply carrying it would continuously purify one's flesh and blood. Meng Xinghai had no choice but to fabricate this story. The truth was far too alarming. Even he, upon learning that Qin Ming had undergone 6 awakenings and possessed arm strength of 9,000 catties, felt the situation was utterly surreal, leaving him utterly bewildered. If word of this spread, he feared that terrifyingly powerful elders, not just experts on the path of awakening, but those who would dissect Qin Ming's body, would descend upon him. Even if Li Qingyan were nearby, he wouldn't be able to protect Qin Ming when that time came. Wang Kaiwei's elder brother glanced indifferently at Kui He and remarked, he started later on the path of awakening, yet he's already stronger than Kui Chongshuan, whom the Kui clan has been nourishing with the 6 imperial heart scripture. If this continues, will he surpass Kui Chong, who possesses near immortal potential? Kui Shunning bristled. How can someone from the path of awakening compare to a near immortal seed from beyond the mortal realm? Even if he's the most exceptional extraordinary individual, he's still just a divine armor guard, or at best, a slightly higher ranking follower, before Chong. That's his limit. Kui He chimed in, disliking the Wang clan's words. His ceiling is fixed, he's reached an insurmountable barrier. How many awakeners are there? Yet how many ultimately become founding ancestors like Heaven Shattering, Tathagata, or the 6 Imperial? Even those sect leaders only achieved their realms by grinding through the years. Meng Xinghai interrupted rudely, enough talk. Are the Yi Mu scripture and scripture of everlasting green life fragments ready? The outcome is far from certain. Kui Shunning retorted, her face veiled by the night mist, yet her expression remained chillingly cold. As if in response to their words, Qin Ming's body surged with wind force, allowing him to move as if gliding through the air. He stepped lightly on the fresh wild grass, pursuing the already knocked back Yuzuohan. The Li fire force erupted from him like raging flames, scorching the night sky and sending his opponent flying once more. The group of youths watched in stunned silence. How could this former acquaintance, once exiled to a remote corner and nearly crushed into oblivion, have risen to such heights through his own strength? You're too arrogant and overconfident. Kui Shunning shouted at the silver-haired youth, sensing the tide turning. Yu Zuohan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood in the desolate wilderness. I'm not just helping you fight, he said. I'm also sparring, honing my skills. In the next moment, the strange phenomena surrounding him intensified. Silver flames flowed visibly from his body, bathing him in a blinding light. His crystalline silver hair seemed to ignite, and every pore on his body pulsed with intense, fiery radiance. Amidst the thick night mist, he stood like a burning silver moon. A sorcerer from beyond the mortal realm. Some murmured in surprise. The youths, however, were utterly astonished. He's from the esoteric sect, someone declared, revealing the silver-haired youth's true origins. And he's incredibly rare, an innate ability user. This was truly astonishing. Yu Zuohan's physical body was already approaching that of an extraordinary individual, yet his greatest expertise lay in the techniques of the esoteric sect. This young powerhouse clearly had an extraordinary background. Qin Ming, fearless and resolute, pressed forward with a calm and steady demeanor, showing no concern whatsoever for the domain his opponent hailed from. Yu Zuohan stood radiant within the burning silver moon. With a violent wave of his hand, a crescent-shaped wheel of light shot forth, slashing toward Qin Ming. Without pausing his advance, Qin Ming merely tilted his head slightly to evade the attack, his body surging with the powerful fluctuations of heavenly light force as he continued his relentless approach. Yu Zuohan's hands carved through the air, unleashing a dense barrage of fiery sparks that coalesced into silver blades wreathed in flames, hurtling forward with scorching speed. Qin Ming remained undeterred, showing no sign of stopping. Yet, a golden aura now blazed around him, enveloping his entire body, the heavenly light force extending 3 inches beyond his skin. His protective technique, the golden light shield, had fully expanded. Every fiery blade struck the golden light shield, producing faint metallic clangs that echoed through the air, yet none could breach the impenetrable defense. Yu Zuohan rapidly shifted his hand seals, conjuring a silver spear that shimmered with blinding radiance, as if carrying a flame capable of incinerating the night sky. He hurled it forward with explosive force. Qin Ming remained motionless. The golden light shield dissipated, and golden threads surged across his hands, extending 3 inches beyond his skin. He clapped his palms together, catching the blazing spiritual spear with a resounding bang. With a violent twist of his hands, he crushed the spear, shattering it into dazzling streams of light that vanished into the night sky with a thunderous boom. Qin Ming advanced steadily, closing in on his opponent like an approaching great mountain. A spectator sighed, composed and unhurried, he effortlessly neutralizes the attacks of such a powerful innate ability user from the esoteric sect. The Night Gazette has been touting this youthful grandmaster aura lately, but this young man truly embodies that presence. Qin Ming's left fist and right palm erupted with blinding golden radiance, resembling 2 golden suns blazing across the night sky, radiating divine light that suppressed his opponent. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.